Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all you.
Okay, so this is Matt Neuenswander. He served for 31 years.
27, and then 4 at the Air Force Academy.
With the Air Force Academy. Okay. What was your definition of duty to your country?
So when we were cadets at the Air Force Academy, they made us memorize a whole bunch of quotes. So there was a quote about duty by Robert E. Lee that said, "Duty is the sublimest word of the English language. You should do your duty in all things. You should never wish to do less, and you can never do more." So your duty is basically to do whatever your country needs, and part of that is as you take a commission as an officer, you raise your hand and you swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Not to the President, not to the Congress, but to the Constitution, which our founding fathers were very wise to write. So as a consequence, that is what I believe has ended up with a couple hundred years of peaceful transition between civilian and military and all that stuff. We all agree that we work for the civilian leadership. However, it's the Constitution that military officers swear an oath to. So I guess in the long run, serving our country in the Constitution of our country, and then the oath ends with "So help me God," and acknowledges the fact that there is a higher being out there that we're also responsible to. So I guess that would be my definition of duty.
In terms of your service, what aspect was your favorite?
Well, I was a fighter pilot. So, some people do different things. I kind of got paid for recess. So, if you consider how many people want to go in the military or the service academies, about 22,000 apply every year to go to the Air Force Academy, and about 1,200 get selected. And then of those 1,200, maybe 100 of them these days will get to fly fighters. So I'm really glad nobody told me how hard it was to get selected when I started, because I'm not sure. But I was a fighter pilot for a number of years. I served all over the world. I flew combat sorties in Afghanistan and Iraq in both the A-10 and the F-16. And it was my honor to serve our country.
How and why did you become an officer?
So let's back up and ask why I wanted to be a pilot, because I think later, the importance of being an officer and leading men, actually by the time I graduated from the academy, I understood that. But when I was in second grade in a small school out in western Kansas, I read this book in the library. It's called Great American Fighter Pilots of World War II. And I went home and I told my mom and dad that I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And they said, yeah, okay, big deal. But, last week you wanted to be a fireman or a cowboy or something. But, I'll never forget the introduction in this book is written by a guy that also wrote a book entitled God is My Co-Pilot, Colonel Robert Scott. And he was from the 74th Fighter Squadron, so they have the shark teeth on the airplanes, which is pretty cool. And I always thought, man, wouldn't it be awesome? I mean, just so awesome to get to fly in one of those airplanes with the shark's teeth on it, like the picture you saw upstairs, because that ended up being my first squadron in the Air Force, was the same one that he was in. So in second grade, I decided that's what I wanted to do. And so my father, who was in education, said, I think you should go to the Air Force Academy, and that became my goal in second grade, and it ended up happening. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the people who are planning on listening, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah. The advice I would have for the youngsters who are planning on either enlisting and becoming a non-commissioned officer in the Air Force or any service, or going through some kind of a commissioning program, either an ROTC or a service academy, is first off, don't do drugs, because it might be legal in, pick a state. A few states it's illegal to smoke pot, but it's still federally not legal, which means you won't be able to get a security clearance, which basically means you really won't be able to do much in the armed forces. And the second thing, work hard, study hard, and stay in shape. Because one of the things they're talking about right now in our country is there are too many video game guys and gals out there who couldn't get out and run if they needed to. And the military is a profession that requires you to be in shape. So.
What was it like to be away from your family?
Hard, but it was difficult, except if you ask yourself the question, if not me, who, then you get to the solution. I mean, every day there's men and women in our country that spend the night in a fire department or they're working at police headquarters or whatever, away from their families, serving the greater good. So it was difficult. I spent a lot of time away from my family, deployed. It was harder when I was younger, I think, than it was when I was older, because when I was older, my last assignment in Kuwait, I had 2,700 people I was responsible for, so I didn't have much time to feel sorry for myself. But anyway, it's hard.
How did you feel when you separated the military?
So in my case, I did just about as full a career as you could do as a colonel. So I retired as a full colonel. I was offered a job working for the Air Force, who is still who I work for now. So I guess that softened the blow a little bit, even though I don't get to fly anymore. But I guess my friends and I kind of look at it like being a pro football player. So you fly F-16s or A-10s until your body says, this isn't a good idea anymore. And then like a pro football player, you share your experiences. Many of them either coach or they talk about, they're on TV talking about it. So I have continued to give back to the Air Force even after I retired, because that's who I work for right now. But I do miss getting up every day and putting on a flight suit. I'm not going to kid you. The flip side of that, though, is you always knew it was coming. I mean, you always knew that there was a time. They make it very clear, so it's not like it's a surprise. Oh, now I guess I can't do this anymore. So you have to plan ahead. And that's why they have a decent retirement system. Because they know that when you're a fairly young man or woman, you're going to have to stop doing it. Same thing the FBI does. Same thing a lot of other really hard service federal agencies do. It's a young man or woman's game. So.
Did you feel that serving in the military changed like your mental? Sorry, I can't speak. Did you feel the service changed you in any significant way?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think people know what they're capable of doing until someone really pushes them, and no one really likes to be really pushed. So like when you're in high school, or at least when I was in high school, I played football, I was in track, I played basketball, and I thought when we were doing the two-a-days in football, it's like, oh my, this is hard. I didn't know what hard was then. So all the different very challenging training programs. I went to airborne schools, water survival, land survival, and then 6 combat tours. So, yeah. It also changes your perspective, too. Things that maybe were important to you once upon a time are less important once you've sent men and women out to get shot at. It changes what you really value, what you think is important. Once life becomes finite and you've carried a few caskets and seen a few friends die. So, anyway, yeah, it changes.
What skills and character traits did service add to your roster?
I think the focus on integrity, in at least as I'm in the officer corps in the military, is something that I believed in, but I hadn't seen it internalized. The Air Force Academy has an honor code. If you break it, at least when I was there, you got kicked out. So if you got caught lying, cheating, or stealing, boom, you were gone. And then if you sign your name to something as someone in the military and you say, I certify this is true, and you get caught, being untruthful about it, there's very little tolerance for that. And it's good that it's that way, because when you have to trust your life to somebody on your left or your right, you don't want to have to wonder if what they said they were going to do, they were going to do. Now, the last thing, I think people in the military take commitments deeper than other people. I mean, when someone says, raise your right hand, swear after me, and yes, I'll go get shot at if you need me to do that. That's different than I will well and faithfully deliver whatever you're selling tomorrow to the high school. So, does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did serving influence your thoughts about war, about the military in general?
Yes. I mean, once you've been in a war, you really don't want to, you're not the first one jumping up and down to I think the people who've been in a war probably hate war worse than those who haven't. It's not glorious. It's not, it's not something that's fun to do. But I guess I go back to the comment I made before. How I never felt like I could ask someone else to go defend my family in my place. So for whatever reason, I grew up with a sense of responsibility that said, if somebody is going to defend or protect my family, my city, my county, my state, my country, I need to be a part of that. And it is interesting that these days, less than 1% of Americans actually have ever served in that capacity. That's about what the country's willing to pay for. So it's not like we can't hire good people. We have the best people we've ever had. We just don't have very many of them. So.
Have you ever thought about going back and getting your pilot's license and maybe flying on like weekends or some trips or anything?
I have my pilot's license.
Okay.
So, and I could if I wanted to. I could have gone to be an airline pilot. So I have a commercial instrument license. I just was a fighter pilot, and
that kind of stuck with you. It's not quite the same.
So no. I mean, it's like being a race car driver or
the taxi driver.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to besmirch anybody's occupation, because everybody's out there doing the best they can. But for me, after having flown fighters, there wasn't much fun in flying, 200 or 300 people around with their luggage. I did not see that as something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So, but I have a lot of friends that are airline pilots. I have the utmost respect for airline pilots. It just wasn't me. So.
Is there anything else you would like to add that we didn't cover?
I guess, as you guys get into this Veterans Day, and I guess they're going to have some ceremony, whatever it might be, I would encourage sharp young men and women who may be wondering what they might want to do to consider serving, because I really don't think you'll regret it. I mean, most of the people that I know that have served, it was the high point of their life. And, I was fortunate enough to get to do it for years. It's hard. but name one thing that you can do and be proud of that's easy. Pretty much everything that's worth doing is challenging. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty shy.
Thank you very much.